Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Vanessa Dunn Guyton, and I am the proud founder and executive director of Hush No More. Hush No More supports survivors when they're ready to come forward to share their story, when they want somebody to listen to, when they need resources. We are here in our community to provide training and to just make noise. That's what it's been about all month long. You know, it's October, Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And so we are making noise, raising awareness because we need it. It is needed. Welcome to Hush No More Champions. It is always my goal to come before you to bring you some good information and to just uplift you. So that is what we're going to do today. I'm really excited about this episode because we need to hear from survivors. I want people to know that this is real, that this is really happening, and that they're not alone. You are not alone. There are other people who are going through things right along with you. And so that's important that you understand that people care. People care. And I want to be able to just encourage you. During this month, there are a lot of events going on. And so I encourage you to go to the events and to just check in with us, check in to see some of the things that we're doing and find the love. So I'm all about love and kindness, all about it. That's all I want to do is share love and kindness with my audience and to you. And so that's what we're going to do tonight. And so we are preparing for our domestic violence walk on October the 16th. And so I'm trying to do interviews with some of our guests that are going to be at the walk, that are going to be performing. We have DJs, cotton candy, free popcorn. You can bring out your kids because our kids need to know about domestic violence, intimate partner violence, and what is happening, and so they can prevent it, and so that they can prevent it from happening to themselves and to other people as well. So I am going to bring on Karle'h Wilson. She is our guest tonight. So here we go. Hello, Karle'h.
Hi, how are you?
I am great. We are going to talk about body armor and domestic violence and just raise some awareness from a different standpoint. So I'm excited and honored that you're here with me tonight.
Thank you. Thank you so much for welcoming me. And thank you for all of the work that you do to raise awareness about this issue.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Can you tell the audience a little bit about Karle'h?
Okay, my name is Karle'h. I grew up in Louisiana, southern Louisiana. I grew up in a very musical family. And I also did a lot of athletics. So when I graduated from high school, I went on to Yale and I competed on the track and field team there. And I completed my degree. I got a bachelor's in philosophy there. And, it was a very hard 4 years. Yale is hard
Yeah.
no matter what. But it was also really hard because I wasn't doing music, I was doing sports. So I actually had a hard time navigating that because it was the longest I've gone in my life without doing music. So I had a hard time adjusting, and it was just kind of, you know, living a completely different lifestyle. The East Coast is a lot different than the South. So I struggled a lot with loneliness and not having family around, and really my identity, just not knowing who I am, because I didn't have anyone around me who I grew up with. So after graduating from Yale, I briefly moved to the Virgin Islands, which is where my mom was living at the time. And I had a very hard time transitioning, did not really have a job or anything. And I started dating someone who was actually living in Philadelphia. So after feeling I wasn't going to make it in the Virgin Islands, I did end up moving to Philadelphia. So that's where I started. I got started in my career um, with fair housing, civil rights, teaching, and actually had my first studio session that I did all by myself. So that's kind of like the beginning of my story, which has led me to where I am now.
Yeah. So congratulations on going to Yale. It sounds like to me you were the golden child. You went to college, you were sports, music. People had very high expectations of you. That's the girl of Karle'h?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. I remember in kindergarten and first grade, that's when I started realizing that I was different because everyone around me would always say like, "You're perfect. Like you're good at everything you do, and you're perfect." I'd be like, "Perfect? Like what?
Right.
Like what?" But I do remember that, and it did make things a little harder because it was like if I didn't do things as well as I always did them, people would call it out. They'd be like, "Oh, she didn't get an A on that test," or she didn't make that basket on the basketball game. Like, "Oh, you didn't score the winning point." It's like, what?
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but was some of that you were hard on yourself?
Honestly, like, I don't really think I was that hard on I think I gave myself a lot of grace. I think I just enjoyed everything I did. I just tried to
Okay.
have fun. And for me, like being competitive was fun. So I had a lot of fun as a kid, I'll say, growing up, doing my activities. I had a lot of fun. I did not think my talents would take me to Yale. I never once thought that.
But I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
I am. When Lewis was talking about you, he was like, and she bought a house and she's so young, she's educated, she's a musician. He speaks so highly of you. And I just couldn't wait to actually meet you, at least virtually, until we get to meet on the 16th. And so I was excited about just having this conversation because you are the epitome of a Black woman. Right? You're doing great things, and we always need to see that. And you teach, so you're doing great things. And I think that's important that we look at that. So fast forward, we get to you in your first relationship, your big major relationship in Philly.
Yes. So yeah, this is my first time moving in with someone, living with them, and just feeling like this was the next step in my life. I think one thing that I was hard on myself about was finding a husband. The way I was raised, and I think the way a lot of Black girls are raised in the South, you're made to feel like your ultimate goal is to find a husband, right? And get married, settle down, have kids, and be the perfect wife and mom. And so I was really, honestly, disappointed in myself that I did not find that at Yale. And even before I got to Yale, I was being told by adults in my life that when I get to Yale, I should be looking for a husband and being told these are the only men that will ever understand you. These are the only men you'll ever meet in your life that will like understand how hardworking you are and how smart you and talented you are. So I got to Yale and no dice. It was very difficult environment. I was not used to that environment at all. So I had a very hard time dating. I did date, and nothing really worked out. And so after graduating Yale, my goal was really not to find a career. I was trying so hard to find a partner. And I felt like even though I graduated from Yale, even though I was a record setting track athlete, um, I felt like I didn't accomplish what I was supposed to accomplish.
Mhm.
And I met someone in Philadelphia who told me everything that I was waiting to hear from the men on campus at Yale. He was going to marry me. I was so beautiful and smart and innocent, and he wanted me to have his children. And this was like the first time I'm like hearing things like this. So I took it very seriously, and I moved in with him. And I was very adamant about getting a job, and he told me, you don't have to work. I'll take care of you, and you don't have to do that. And I was like, that's so nice of him. Like, look how special and perfect he
Right.
is. But I still wanted to work, so I found a job. I was a teaching assistant, and I wasn't making much money. I was making $10 an hour, and I was working like 5 hours a day. And honestly, it was just fun for me. And I didn't think I needed to work that much because he kept telling me that I
You didn't
didn't
have
need to
to.
work. So I
Mhm.
was like, well, I'm going to just find a job that's fun and rewarding. And I did. And, once I started working, it became our relationship became less romantic, and it was like he was offended by the fact that I wanted to work and that I was leaving the house every day to go work. Um, so, that was like my first sign. But I think looking back, I saw all these signs and I never put together that I was in a toxic, abusive relationship. And now the light is so it's so clear to me, all of the subtle things at the
Wow.
beginning that were
Mhm.
signs of the abuse. Um, and sometimes I'm thankful for the experience because I didn't have anyone to teach me about that. I never learned about, they don't teach you in college how to avoid a toxic relationship. And unfortunately, no one in my life had taught me how to do that.
The one thing, Karle'h, I do believe that we should be talking about it in schools very early, because it's not just happening once we become an adult. It's actually happening when we are a child as well. Teen dating violence is real. The numbers are high. And so I like the fact that you say that we should have been talking about it. You never talked about it. You never had an opportunity for somebody to sit down and have this conversation with you. They'll tell you, well, don't let nobody hit you, but they don't tell you like the red flags, right? That could come. So I'm glad that you did start learning the lesson, even though it's after the fact.
Yeah. And I think, too, sometimes people think, oh, I think a lot of times I didn't want to face what was happening because I didn't want to see myself as damaged.
Mhm.
Um, and I've learned that, I'm not damaged. um, what do they say about diamonds, right? Like, you have to go through a whole bunch of, uh, the diamond has to go through a whole bunch of cutting and chipping to be shaped into the $1 million piece that it becomes, right? And so I had to kind of accept that I can be whole and live a happy, thriving, fulfilling life after being a victim. And that, I think the hardest part is like accepting that like this is happening to you. Um, that was the hardest part, but for me, it came as soon as the abuse became physical. So that's something I talk about a lot in my book. I talk about all the different types of abuse because a lot of times people think that domestic violence is just physical. Um, but the truth is that there's a lot of different types of abuse, and they are all early warning signs before it gets physical. That it rarely just starts off as physical. There's all these subtle things that build up into the abuser just completely losing control and resorting to physical violence because they've exhausted all the other mechanisms that they have. Um, so now my eyes are very open, and I'm very careful with people, and um, I just try to make sure that I don't allow anyone to get too. I try not to let myself get too vulnerable, which can be difficult, but at the same time, like, I think there's this victim blaming thing, and then there's also, as a survivor, learning how to, like, relearning how to live, right?
Yeah.
And so it's not like blaming yourself for the abuse that you went through, but like unlearning some behaviors and then learning new tactics and ways to make sure that you don't become a victim again. Um, because I was talking to a friend about this the other day, but a lot of abusers are narcissists, and people like narcissists, they actively seek out people who have already been abused, maybe as children, or people who are like really nice and really easygoing. They'll actively seek out these people because they see them as easy targets.
Mhm.
And so it's like it's important to not stop being that nice, loving, caring person, but to also learn ways to not allow anyone to hurt you.
Yeah. How did you get out of your abusive relationship? How did you escape out of that? Because I think that's important for people to hear the next level.
Oh my gosh. It was a long process, and I would love to meet someone who has had an easier time. I think it's so hard. For me, it was a lot of strategizing. The first the first step was counseling. Um, I actually was so before I was putting it together that like this person is a narcissist and like the relationship's not going to work, I was like, let's get couples counseling because I made every excuse for him, right? Every
Right.
time. And I read a meme earlier today and someone said, um, I was so in love that I made excuses for the person that was hurting me. And so that's like what I was doing. It's like every time he hurt me, I was like trying to understand what he was going through instead of like helping myself and healing myself. And so it's like I was just putting up with it. And I'm telling you, you would not recognize me if you saw me back then. Like I looked so different. I didn't have any hair. I literally cut all my hair off. I didn't take care of myself that well because I had spent every moment, every piece of energy I had taking care of him
Yeah.
while he was hurting me. Right. So that process was really long. I was like, let's go to couples counseling. And I heard of this program. It was actually a free program in Philly called, uh, oh, I forgot what it's called. But it was basically a program that helps abusers and their victims. So you're supposed to go as a couple, but like you're supposed to agree that one of you is abusive, right? And I don't know till this day if that's just like kind of like a trick to get the victim to come. Um, because he never came. It was supposed to be couples counseling. And I think I went to like 5 sessions and he never showed up. And by the fifth one, the therapist was looking at me and she was like, he's not coming. And I was like, what? She was like, Karle'h, he's not coming. She was like, you need this. He's not coming. So that was the first step. Accepting that he
Oh, Karle'h, you
was
going in and
not
out. I'm like, I know you got some
coming
good stuff to say because
to
your Wi-Fi is going in and out. Can you hear me?
Oh, am I here now? I can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you now. You just keep going in and out a little
Can you
bit.
hear me?
The last thing was the therapist told you that he was not coming, that we
No.
can
Hold on.
necessarily hear. Sometimes when somebody got like the best story ever, it's like when you get to the good juicy point, they go out. One thing about technology is never really stable. So I'm sorry that Karle'h is going in and out. Hopefully it fixes itself and she's able to finish because I really want to hear about how this therapist told her he is not coming and so that she can actually move forward. And if you know any programs that it's counseling and both people go, that is a good way. That's a good test to be able to determine if somebody is serious about the relationship or not, how they perform and act in counseling. So it's really important that you pay attention to that. All right, Karle'h. And
Okay,
while
am I
she's
here?
you're sort of you're not on screen though. There you go.
Okay. Oh my gosh. So yeah, after accepting that he wasn't coming, um, I kept going, and it just became like a lot about strategizing because our lives were so intertwined that I was trying to figure out how to slowly peel my life away from his without like alerting him to what I was doing.
Right.
And that was the hardest part, right? And especially when you're dealing with a narcissist, that's going to be the hardest part because they're all about control. They want to control you. They want to make sure that you never leave and that they always have you to themselves. So, yes, I did buy a house. He was actually in nursing school. So, we had like kind of split our finances to where I was taking care of the bills, all of them. And
You got that mommy look.
oh, Lord. Um, I so yeah, so I was paying all the bills and he was taking care of our daughter's daycare bill. So that's the only bill he was paying. I was paying everything else. And that's another form of abuse that I talk about in my book, financial abuse, right? Um I started off like I said, I was making $10 an hour, but like 2 weeks into that job, all of a sudden my whole check was going to our bills
Right.
after being told for months that I didn't have to work and he was going to take care of all the bills. All of a sudden, I didn't really have any money to spend on myself. So, yeah, so he really was taking care of her daycare, which is expensive, especially for babies. But I was handling all the other bills.
Everything,
So,
yeah.
yeah, so for me, I was like, my main thing is I need to figure out how to be able to move away without becoming homeless, with all these bills I have now. I have a mortgage, I have a car note, car insurance. Um, and I put my house up for rent. And I did not want him to know what I was doing. And I was applying for jobs in Louisiana. And, you know, I was making all of this happen. And it's just so amazing how when you need something to happen, it's going to happen, right? So the job I applied for in Louisiana, I was perfectly qualified for. The job had actually been open for a year and a half, and they couldn't find anybody. And they were having a hard time it was getting to the point where they felt like they might not find someone because you needed a certain level of credentials and training and knowledge, and I had literally all of it. I checked every box. And they paid for my moving expenses. And this all was happening before things got violent. So I was actually like, maybe we can still make this work. I've been going through counseling. Maybe eventually he can come. And he was talking about going to the army. And I was like, maybe we can still do this together. So but I waited until I got to the point where I knew that my moving expenses were paid for. I had a tenant ready to move, before I told him what was going on because I did not want him to sabotage it, right? I wanted to make sure that even if he decided that he wasn't coming, that I could still go. So that's what I did. I told him. He was really upset. He tried to hide it, and it was very confusing. And that's the other thing about abusers. They can be very confusing because, you know, they're they try to be strategic too. So it was like me strategizing around someone who was like actively strategizing to keep me from
Right.
leaving, right? Um, so I did tell him. He was really upset, but he eventually left and went on a cruise. He asked me if I wanted to go on a cruise with him, and I was like, this is a really weird time, to go on a cruise because it was during his finals. Um, it was during his finals, and I was just like, don't you have a bunch of tests coming up? And he was like, yeah, well, I took all my finals, and you've never been on a cruise and I've never been on a cruise. So I think, we should just do it. And I was like, well, we don't have a babysitter. My whole family was in Louisiana. His family was not supportive at all. I was like, we don't even have a babysitter. Like, there's no
Right.
way we can go on a cruise. I can't take off work. And it was like a Groupon thing. So it was like a cruise, literally a cruise to the Bahamas for like $50. So he just really, really wanted to go. And I said no. And he went. But I didn't know that he went. He told me that he went to visit his brother in Florida. So I was just like, okay. I wasn't putting two and two together because it was just the last thing on my mind. I was, just trying to make it through the last couple of weeks at work so that I could move to Louisiana and start my new life. Turns out he went to the Bahamas with some other woman that he was cheating on me with. So I'm like, I don't know anything. All I know is the whole time he's gone, he's not answering the phone. And I'm like,
Right.
okay, this is
You knew it
weird.
was time for you to move, though. You knew
Yeah.
it was time for you to move on.
Yeah. I mean, I was ready. I was ready to move. He wasn't answering the phone. But the problem was he didn't pay for our daughter's school for that week that he was gone. So it was just, he kind of like left things low key in chaos. But I was just getting through it. And when he came back, he was very hostile towards me. I still didn't know that he was in the Bahamas with a woman. And he was just really hostile, like starting fights randomly. And I was like, oh my goodness, like what's wrong? Like, what did I do? Like, you were just on vacation. Like, I hope you had fun. But all of a sudden, I'm sorry, you guys. All of a sudden, that night that he came back around midnight, I was like in bed, like, he was trying to start an argument with me. And I was like, I just don't want to argue. Please just leave me alone. I'm, going to sleep. So I went to my room. I was like, just trying to go to bed. I think I was trying to get some work done before tomorrow, before I had work in the morning. And around midnight, someone's knocking on my door. And he comes to me. He's like, who's that? I'm like, I don't know. The other thing is I had bought my house in the suburbs of Philly. So we weren't like in Philly anymore. We were in the suburbs. So no one knew where we lived. It was a very, very quiet neighborhood, like never, any drama. And so someone's knocking on my door. I'm thinking like this is really bad. So all of a sudden, like, he's telling me, well, don't answer it. I'm like, okay. All of a sudden, there's a woman's voice calling his name, saying, we need to talk. And we were just together. We were in the Bahamas. So I put on my robe and I'm like trying to go downstairs and answer the door and see what's going on. He fought me for 20 straight minutes to keep me from opening that door. When I tell you, he pulled out, and the other thing is he was a professional boxer. He pulled out all kind of moves that I've never seen him do on me to keep me from opening the door. And he was lying. He was saying, that's my brother's girl. I don't know who that is. That's one of my brother's girls. And she has a gun. She's here to kill you. And why would you want to open the door so she can kill you? And I remember at one point during the fight, looking him in the eye and saying, well, he asked me, he was like, do you want to die? And I looked him in the eye and I said, I am willing to die to find out the truth. And it hurts me now knowing I meant that.
Yeah.
I was willing to die because I was tired of living in this trap. And I knew it was a trap. I didn't know what the problem was. Every week I'm in therapy, talking it out, just trying to figure out what's the problem. And I can see that my therapist is doing her best to get me to care more about me. But I'm still just so concerned about him and trying to figure out what happened? What did I do wrong? He loved me and all of a sudden now he doesn't. He hadn't touched me in 2 years. We were living in the same house. We slept in separate rooms for 2 years. We had a 3-bedroom, for the last 2 years of our relationship, and he was in one bedroom, I was in another. And I was like, I just don't know what's wrong with me. And it messes with your head so bad that it's to the point that you would rather die than keep going through it. And I knew that whatever was on the other side of that door was the answer. If she had a gun, I didn't care, because he had a sword, a literal sword that he pulled out of the case and was wielding at me to keep me from opening that door. And it's just such a crazy story when I try to tell people and I bring up the part that he pulled out a sword on me, and they don't believe me. But he literally pulled out a sword on me to keep me from opening the door, to find out that he was cheating. And till this day, some of his family members will say, well, cheating, cheating isn't that bad, and everybody, goes through cheating.
Yep.
And I tell them, I did not leave him because he cheated on me. I left him because he put his hands on me. He threatened my life. At one point in the end of the fight was when he threw me into the wall, and the way I landed on the wall, my head hit the corner of the thing around the door, and it bust my head wide open. And I still have a scar to this day. And I was bleeding everywhere. And I think that was the moment where he snapped back and realized what was going on. He had completely lost control. At one point in the fight, he had me in a headlock. I was on the ground. Well, he pulled me to the ground, and he had me in this crazy chokehold. The only reason I got out was because I had on my robe. He had me in a chokehold, and he had me there for about 2 minutes, and I was struggling to get out. And once I realized that he was just too strong, I started taking off my robe. I pulled off my robe, slipped out of his grip, ran to the door. Before I could get to the door, he slammed me against the wall, knocked my head into the mantel, and my head bust open. He stops and goes to get a towel and tries to pat my blood as if to help me. And I'm looking at him like, you think a towel? I need stitches. So the girl, when she hears what's happening, she finally leaves. This has been going on for about 30 minutes. And then I tell him, I start crying to him, and I was just like, really? You were cheating the whole time. And it's in the moment I was hurt because I kept trying to leave that relationship for over a year. I've been trying to leave the relationship, and he kept telling me, well, but I love you. And I'm just like, but how? Like, how do you love me? We don't even kiss. We're not even intimate. You seem to hate me. Like, you act like you hate me. You leave every time I ask you to help me with our baby. One time I asked him to bathe her because I was so tired. I used to bring her to work with me, which I was so tired. I asked him to please bathe her so that I could eat without having to breastfeed while I'm eating. He literally left. He left the house because I asked him to help me. And then and that became the norm. Anytime I asked him to help, he would just leave. So I was just like, why are we even together? And he begged me to stay. And I was like, but the whole time you're cheating. Why? And then he was like, well, that's just how I feel. That's what I wanted to do. And I said, well, get your stuff and leave. And he was like, I'll leave tonight, but I'll be back, in the morning. And I was like, no, get all your stuff and leave. And he was like, I'm not getting my stuff. And I was like, listen, get your stuff now, because whatever you leave, I'm bagging it up and I'm putting it in the front yard for you to pick up tomorrow. And he was like, he didn't take me seriously. And he was like, oh no, whatever, you'll calm down and you'll get over it. Meanwhile, the whole time my head is oozing blood. And he's going to go lay down. And he's like, I'm going to go lay down. We can talk about this in the morning. And I was like, absolutely not. And then I was like, you have to go now. And he was like, well, if you want me to leave now, you're going to have to call the police because I'm not going anywhere. So I was like, okay. So I get on the phone, call the police. And, like I said, we were in the suburbs. We weren't in inner city Philly anymore. We were
Right.
in the suburbs. So when I called the police, I wasn't even expecting this. I didn't know this about the suburbs either. I called the police. I'm telling you, the police were there in less than 5 minutes. I think it might have been 3 minutes. There were like 5 police outside of my house. He wasn't expecting it neither. He was literally laying in the bed thinking they weren't coming. And he ran to the basement. The police waited for him for about 20 minutes before they finally just entered the house and went and got him. And he was taken away in a police car. And I had to wake my baby up. And I was taken away in an ambulance, brought to the ER, got my head stitched up while my daughter was sitting there watching me get my head stitched up. So, these are the things I think about sometimes when, you know, he'll gaslight me about court dates and I'm not this type of guy. And I was in a police car and I'm like, yeah, I was in an ambulance. And,
Right.
people don't always understand, like, if I had hit the wrong angle, I literally could have died. That's my head. And yeah, so I was ready to go at that point. I already had the job, I already had the job. So at that point, it was like, it's just time to go. So I left my other job a little earlier than I was expecting, but I had about a month before I started my new job. And I used that month to pack and stay home with my kid and transition to New Orleans. And I moved to New Orleans. Once I moved to New Orleans, that's when I started writing my book. That's when I started singing with a reggae band. And that's when I decided that I wanted to be a singer and I was really going to do it.
Yeah. So first of all, when you were sharing your story, we felt like we were there with you. Like I was in the moment with you. And sometimes we look at life and be like, how did I even end up there? Like we could feel you were in this moment trying to figure out why you were even there, how this could be happening, and the song Body Armor, we talked about body armor and he used the sword against you and just standing up to him. Like I'm so proud of you because sometimes people don't call the police because the 5 police cars might come in the ambulance. It's embarrassing, right? It's embarrassing. And you blamed yourself so much for all the things that he was doing. And your story is so common, and I'm glad that you're sharing it because people don't understand why did you stay? You was trying to make your relationship work, and sometimes family is not supportive. And out of all of that, what you shared with us today, I'm gonna tell you the part that I took away was that you left him for cheating. No, you left him because the brother was trying to kill you. So, like, I just don't understand why people say the dumbest things when you're trying to get away and you're trying to make a better life, and they still take up for the abuser, and that
Yes.
continues the behavior. And so I'm just happy that you lived, you survived, and you're on your healing journey. You wrote a book and you're singing now. So tell us about your singing, Karle'h, because you're on a whole nother level now.
Oh my gosh. So, um, first of all, I'm so thankful, like, to be with a label that supported me with this, especially the song Body Armor, because the music industry is very rough. A lot of people that I tried to work with before I found Fox Records were, trying to get me to over sexualize and do that and do this. And
Yep.
um it's fun, it's fun, it's whatever. But when I met Lewis and he brought me the instrumental for Body Armor and he said this song is called Body Armor, and it's about, and he told me, he ran it down. He was like, it's about, when you're just dealing with somebody who just puts you through so much and you have to literally feel like you're putting on a body armor to get away from them. And I was like, he didn't know anything about me, but I was like, I know all about that. I could write to that. And then I was like, the instrumental, I was like, this is perfect for my voice. And I was like, I got this. And he was like, okay. It was kind of, I could tell he was just like, whatever. I'm gonna let her try and see what happens. But I think it was a perfect match. And I think sometimes when, like I said, like when you choose yourself, things fall into place the way they're supposed to. Because I worked with a lot of producers and a lot of people who were trying to help me make music, and it did not it didn't stick, and it didn't make sense. It didn't make sense the way this song made sense. And so I do feel like I was chosen for this, and I was supposed to write this song, and I was supposed to help other people heal with it.
I love it. I love it. Sometimes our music industry, it is over sexualized. And what I love about you, when I started looking at your website and everything, I was like, she remind me of India Ari. So I love me some India Ari. She's true to who she is. She has natural beauty. You have natural beauty. You just smile. You're a single mother. You're educated. Like, you are an example for other women. And I know it's hard for you to receive that, right? But I just want to show you so much love and to pour into you, because you truly are an amazing artist. And I'm excited that you're doing music for survivors. Like, you're representing body armor of how you have to fight back, and how you did, and you left, you survived. And that is very empowering. So
Thank you.
I just really am impressed with that. And for all of you, Karle'h is going to perform Body Armor at our domestic violence walk on October 16th. So you'll be able to hear her perform, and we're going to put the video in the comments. So you'll be able to come back and look at the video so you could hear her song Body Armor. And the video is amazing. How did you act out the video of being the abused woman? How did that make you feel?
It was hard. It was hard. I have experience acting. So my last role when I was in Philly, I played a slave, and a slave woman with a child. And I had to sing, and I had to really like connect with that character in a way that I had to like see myself as a modern day slave.
Mhm.
And that's how I was able to like get the emotion through to the audience. And it took a lot of work, and it took a lot of like digging into myself and thinking about family members and people who I care about, who I maybe haven't talked to in a long time, but like piecing all these things together and looking at my life like as a book, and like rewriting my life to like try to make myself feel like a slave. So it took like months for me to get into character for that. So for this video, I only had about 1 month to prepare, and it was hard because I knew that I was gonna have to like relive certain things. And I also knew that I would have people there on set who I love and who love me, who could support me. So that was really, really helpful. Shout out to Elsie, my best friend, who was on set. And I also had to take myself out during the body armor video. I think a big part of it was taking myself out and like thinking about other survivors who I knew. So I actually have a lot of friends who are survivors, male and female. And for certain scenes, I would like recollect them telling me about, you know, what they went through. So like, especially like there's a scene with the car. I remember really putting myself back and thinking about my friend who had described to me so many instances where her abuser had they would have fights in the car all the time, and she would tell me about all of them. So I kind of tried to channel her and think about her, and try to take myself out a little bit, right? Because it's not just my story anymore. Like now it's our story, right? And I'm trying to connect with all of the survivors. I didn't want it to just be about me. I wanted it to be about all of our collective stories.
I love it, because For me, I'm always thinking about other survivors. What I say and how I'm going to impact other people is so important. And I'm proud of you because when I looked at the video, I was, how can she go through the domestic violence again? Even though you're acting, it seems so real. And I'm sure that you must have had some type of flashback thinking in that moment, but I understand now you took yourself out of it. And so that's important to be able to do that. And so I am impressed. I am really
Thank
impressed with
you.
that.
Thank you.
All right, so we got about 15 minutes left. So I wanted to know, did you have any last words, some encouraging words to share with our audience? And like, I'm really happy about you shared your story tonight.
Yeah, I think my most important thing that I always tell friends or even strangers that I meet is that I want you to think about kind of what I was saying earlier when, I told him that I was willing to die, to know the truth. Um, and uh, what led to me being willing to die was me actually having put my life on the line every single day for this person. So I think, when you're dating and when you're realizing that you're in a toxic relationship, my advice would just be to think about how much of yourself is going into that relationship, and are you still you, or are you losing yourself, right? Because if you lose too much of yourself, you could get to a point where it does become life and death. And a lot of people don't think that that could ever be them, but you have to realize I graduated from Yale, right? People, when they find out I graduated from Yale, they usually think like my life is sad, everything's going to be gravy. And I thought that. When I went to Yale, I thought I decided to go to Yale because I assumed that if I am a Yale graduate, my life is going to be great. It's going to be easy, and I'm going to have a lot of money and success, and I won't have problems that most Black women go through. I literally thought that, but I did. So I would just want people who are going through this now or who haven't been through it but find themselves in toxic relationships to think about how much of yourself you're losing in that relationship, and weigh how much are you willing to lose, and are you willing to get to a point where if you have two doors and one is you're opening that door to find out is he cheating on me or not, and the other door is possible death, do you want to get to a point where those are your two options? Because it's very real. Like that is something that becomes real really fast. Um, and then also just realizing anyone who puts you in danger at any point, whether it's a romantic partner, a sibling, a parent, a friend, stay away from them. I gave this speech to my first graders yesterday, and everyone might not approve of it, but I taught them YOLO, right? Because you only live once. We don't. I don't really know if we only live once, but while I'm here, I'm going to at least try to live like I only live once. And every word in that statement is a word that a first grader should be able to read. And so that's why I was going over this with them. But you have this life, and the only thing that we know for sure is that we will die. We don't know when, but please don't let your death be at the hands of someone who is abusing you. Please do what you can to get away from them. If you have to strategize, even if it takes a while, it took me a year to get out of that relationship. If it takes you a while, it could take you longer. Please at least be working towards getting away from them. Find help. Lean into people who want to help you. And think about yourself. Put yourself first when you're seeking help. When you realize that you're a victim and you need help, stop trying to be there for everyone else. Use that time to get yourself together. Because a lot of time, us victims and survivors, we're the people that want to help everyone, and you can lean on me and tell me your problems and I'll come but at a certain point, when you realize that you are the victim right now, stop for as long as you can and focus on yourself. And it's not selfish, it's survival. And when you're on the other side, which is something I talk about in my song, when you're on the other side, you can go back and start helping people again. But wait till you get to the other side, because I'm telling you, it is so great over here. It's wonderful. It's beautiful. I get to smile. I didn't smile like this when I was with him, when I was going through this. So that's all that's my main thing. I really want people to understand what this is, because to see you there, because I'm over here and I'm still also healing. And yeah, that's it.
I love it. Oh, I love it. You summed it up. And here in South Carolina, we are sixth when it relates to women being killed due to domestic violence. It's real. It's real. I was at the State House today and we was doing a silent witness ceremony and calling out men and women names who were killed in 2020, even during COVID. You know, they died. And you are right. You have to get out of that relationship, you know, especially if you don't try counseling and you still are not happy. There are a lot of resources. One thing that I love to do is to do exit strategies. That's why I want to know, how did you get out? It is so important about the other side. How did you get out? And so we come up with some strategies of how we're going to get out. And you don't say, I'm leaving. Don't tell them nothing. You got to be quiet when it's time to leave. I love that you were quiet. You cannot tell them that you're leaving the relationship, because they would do everything in their power to stop you. And so that's a really good example of how exit strategies really work. I mean, you had a whole job. So
Yes.
it's
Yes.
possible. And you got the job to pay for you to move. Those
Yeah.
are great tips for those that don't really know what it is that they want to do. How can they get to the next level? And so I'm happy about that, that you were able to figure that out. And you are a Yale graduate. And I want people to know that it happens to everybody. It has nothing to do with race, you know, your background, your culture, if you're rich. A majority of my clients are middle class, are educated. This is not a poor thing where people think just because you're poor. It is affecting everybody and families. And so, and I saw your daughter, like, I know you were kind of frustrated. You had that mama look like, if you don't move, you know, but it was
Oh
important
my
because
gosh.
we had an opportunity to see your beautiful daughter and what you
Thank
live
you.
for. You know,
Yes.
you fight for her. And so that is important. So don't feel bad that your daughter came on screen. I was just like, hi, you know. I have kids myself.
She
So
loves the spotlight. Listen.
does she? Yeah, yeah. So it was
she's a
important
she's
that
a young star in the making. I always tell people she's got it.
she's got it. Yeah, she got it. So I'm really thankful for your story. And you have quite a few comments. Like the chat was very active and I tried to put it up so that people can see what everybody was saying. And people were really saying good things to you, that you had a powerful testimony and praising God, and God
Oh,
is truly good. Like you manifested. You spoke that thing and got out of that relationship. And I'm so happy for you. You know, you had the real body armor. You did that. And Sharon, she said that she's a victim of domestic violence. Thank you, Sharon, for deciding to hush no more. Um, I think that is very important. And Stephanie said the same thing. So when survivors come forward and they tell us, yeah, I walked this too. Sherry, I walked this too. You know, it is so important because it lets us know that we're not alone. You know,
right.
we're not alone in this journey. So I'm really impressed. So thank
Thank
you. So
you.
how can people reach Karle'h? How can we find out more information about you?
Okay, the best thing to do is go to my website. It's www.karlehwilson.com. So it's Karleh Wilson.com. On my website, you'll find the links to all my social media. And the best thing you can do is click that follow button on my website. Sign up with your email. So that way, when I send out email blasts about my new music video or my EP dropping, you'll be the first person to know about it.
Yeah, and where you're going to be performing. So that's
Yes.
important because we need to be able to see you live, because I love live music. So where you're performing, where you're going to be at, and please follow Karle'h. She needs to get a good following, because the more following you have, the more people bring you out to perform and more opportunities that come for her. And she's really doing a great job. And so Karle'h is going to be with us next Saturday. So I am excited to meet you, Karle'h. I can't wait. Are you bringing your daughter? You're like, no.
She would sing listen, she would probably sing the song by herself if I brought her.
Yeah.
She knows it word for word. That's her favorite song. Every time we're in the car, she's like, "Mommy, can you please play your song?" And she sings it and she loves it. But no, she's gonna stay here with my cousin.
Okay. Look, I'm telling you, kids are welcome. Kids are welcome in our walk. So I don't want you to be like, well, I don't have a babysitter. So she's welcome to come, but I get it because sometimes you just need your alone time. So come on to Columbia, South Carolina, enjoy that Southern hospitality. I'm going to show you some love. My team is going to love on you, and we're going to have a good time.
I'm so
Yeah,
excited. Thank
yeah, we're gonna have
you.
a good time. We're gonna have. I'm giving out so much stuff, bags, free popcorn, cotton candy. We're
Ooh,
gonna have vendors, sponsors, like they're all gonna just come out. We're doing face and body painting. You gotta wear your mask, so we're gonna paint around your mask. So
okay.
we have a lot of things planned this week, and I'm really excited that
I'm
we're gonna be able
excited
to do that.
too.
Yeah,
I'm really excited. I'm excited for my first performance of body armor to be at your event. I honestly have not. I haven't performed it since it's been released, so I'm really really excited. This is going to be very special. And purple has always been my favorite color, so that's why I say I feel like I was made to do this, and I'm excited. I'm thankful for you for creating this event.
Yeah, thank you. I can't wait. So, I love just having community events where we all come together to meet good people. There's so many good people in our communities, but we don't always get to meet them. So that excites me to be able
Especially
to meet
because of the
them,
pandemic.
and
You know,
especially because of that.
I
Yeah.
haven't met anybody in 2 years. I just feel like I used to meet people all the time. And ever since this started, I just be like, man, I don't, it's a lot of online stuff. So I'm excited, to finally,
Do something live. Yeah.
yes.
All right. So this month we have so many events going on. I am so excited about the month of October. We are going to be super, super busy. On October the 9th, we have the Purple Gala here in Columbia, South Carolina. There's only a few tickets left. So if you want to come out, get fancy with us, even during COVID, we're going to be wearing masks. Come out. I'll be speaking at that event. October 14th is Wear Purple Day. So please wear your purple. You could text me. You could message me your pictures. You could tag us on Facebook, but wear purple and show survivors that you support them. And also on the 14th, we'll be at Charlotte Air Force Base doing a candlelight vigil. That is going to be a nice event. I am Army, but I support the Air Force as well. And so we're going to be out there making some noise and celebrating families and survivors. And then we have concealed weapon permit training on the 23rd of October. I believe that if you want to carry a weapon, defend yourself, learn how to use it, and do it safely. So we're going to be doing some concealed weapon permit training. And then on the 30th of October, we're going to have the Grace International Gala. I'll be speaking there too. It's going to be another fancy event. So this month, you got 2 times that you can get fancy with us and dress up. And then every Tuesday, we have Hush No More Champions. So next Tuesday, it's going to be Reverend Melody Griffin, and she's going to talk about spiritual abuse in the church. That's going to be a good one because I love talking about domestic violence from a church lens. And then the next Tuesday, it'll be attorney Kelly Darden, and she's going to talk about the legal aspects of domestic violence. Did you know that you can get a lawyer? And there are lawyers out there that will fight for you as it relates to domestic violence. We're going to talk about what are the laws that are there to protect you. And then we are going to have Surviving Pure Hell from Misty. Misty is going to talk about her experiences and how she's on the next level in healing. I'm all about healing and how can we change our lives to get to the next level. So thank you for joining us. If you don't have nothing to do on Thursday nights, we always have art therapy at 7 p.m. You don't need to know how to draw. You just need to know how to show some love and join us to have some fun. Thank you once again, Karle'h, for being an amazing guest, for
Thank you.
just showing your beautiful smile and just knowing that you're making a difference one person at a time. So I
Thank
thank
you.
you so
Thank you
very
so
much.
much. Thank you for
You're
having me.
welcome. Peace and blessings, you all. Show some love to Karle'h and make sure you show some love for domestic violence survivors on your social media. Peace and blessings.